success on your own terms. The show that dives into everything that society tells us not to do. It's time to forget all of your ideas of success and break free from restrictive social norms, starting with today's show. Join Elizabeth Houghton as she explores practical ways to find success on your own terms. Elizabeth is no stranger to being trapped by social norms, but she found his sudden full potential to motivate and mentor others to make a positive change in their life. Each episode, Elizabeth will sit down with trailblazing guests who created their own path to success. It's time to be inspired. You'll now be joined by your host, Elizabeth Houghton. Enjoy the show.
Hi everyone, I hope you are well. Thank you ever so much for tuning back in today to this podcast. I am joined by Odessa today, and Odessa and I have had a very interesting relationship on LinkedIn over the last couple of months. So I came across Odessa when she was actually looking for work on LinkedIn, and just her energy comes through her page. Everything she does, like, you know what her personality is about. It's kind of infectious and you can't not follow her stuff. And I thought, what a great opportunity to get someone onto this podcast to talk to us about her journey. And her journey has been not all good, unfortunately. I think we've all struggled with different things through COVID. But for Odessa, she actually lost 2 jobs and then took to finding her feet on LinkedIn and TikTok. So welcome ever so much, Odessa. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Thanks for a super intro.
You're most welcome. So what was it? Like, I know you went through, was it 2 redundancies that you went through during that very short period of time?
Actually, so both of the situations were more of a job fit. I think it was where certainly the first position regrettably didn't work out. There was a few things that, I was under a lot of pressure, struggling with the workload, and wasn't getting on particularly well with my manager. And with the second, it was kind of expectations outside of my skill set. I was really grateful to be given the opportunity to work with the people that I worked with. I met some amazing people, great teams and support. And I think it got to a point with both those roles where, and it's actually something my new employer had mentioned to me in our journey, is that if a job doesn't work out, it's usually that at some point in the process, somebody wasn't being honest, or somebody wasn't really revealing either themselves or as an employer. And I think in both of those roles, I had distinctly become unhappy. I wasn't enjoying the work, or I was struggling or dreading going to work next morning. And it got to a point where I said, I don't want to work unhappily anymore. I don't want to have these feelings and to be constantly picking things apart. So unfortunately, I put those both down to job fit. I think the pressure of COVID didn't really help anybody in kind of holding things together, and we had kids at home and everything else like that. So we were constantly juggling, but it was definitely a job fit situation.
And that, I love what your current employer has said around, it's about someone not being honest. So I have over a decade in HR management and recruiting and all of that stuff. And it is so true. I think that I've worked with employers that will say stuff because it sounds good. Like, it's a buzzword. It's a thing that you're supposed to say in an interview, right? You're supposed to say you're really flexible and you understand that people have family, and, you're not actually going to need to work overtime because we get the importance. The reality is somewhat different. Or when you get in the door, but they say they've picked up all of this stuff. I don't know what it is, because they work in the organization. They know what the organization is like, but they've picked up all of these little buzzwords. They're like, this is what candidates want to hear. So we're going to tell them. And then candidates also come to the process, not necessarily realizing it's a two-way street. Not all organizations are equal. Not all organizations are made the same, and it's just as important for that candidate to come in with their list of questions and start grilling the interview panel. Like, it is a two-way process, and I feel that doesn't really happen, or it doesn't happen as much as I would love it to happen, because at the end of the day, you're matching people with people, but also to an organization. And when both parties aren't being open and asking lots of questions,
and I'd say, so I've sat on the recruitment side of it and I've sat on the candidate side of it. And I think when you're a candidate looking for a job, you don't want to be on the market for very long. The career panic sets in when you're thinking you've got bills to pay, and how long is this onboarding process going to take, and how long is it going to do this, and how long is it realistically before I get my first paycheck. And I think you do this tremendous job of trying to build yourself up and actually make yourself the perfect candidate. You know, they say, do you need flexible working? And you're worried that if you say, yes, I do, they're going to say, well, I'm sorry, this isn't the job for you. So you feel this incredible pressure to jump through hoops for people and to say the right things. It's kind of like trying to pass on the exams here, where you've got a 6-mark question, you've got to hit all these particular goals to get your full marks. And I think we try so hard to be what the employer thinks we are, and we're so desperate to make them like us and say, yes, we're going to give you an offer, that we forget that actually it's just as important, as you said, that the company is right for us. We become afraid to ask these questions, to delve a little bit deeper and find out more about the organisation. And actually, if they can get away with not giving you flexible hours, of course they're not going to. If they can sort of lead you down the path of, you know, got to meet business needs, or we'll try and help you, but you've got to be around for our customers and stuff like that. You might get into that organisation and actually there'll be 4 or 5 people who always leave at 3, or, you know, there'll be people who work from home some days because they've got kids at home. And actually, had you have maybe stood your ground a bit more, you'd have found that there's a possibility that there was that kind of flexibility for you. But we so often just forget, you know, give it all up and just hope that they'll like us.
Because we get stuck in this scarcity, don't we? We get, especially if we're not necessarily out of a job, but I do think if you're already out of a job, there is that pressure of, I can't be on the job market too long, it doesn't look good on my CV, I can't have this gap. Like, we've been told all of this stuff, right? That it doesn't look good to have a career gap. Why the hell not? Clearly you're doing a lot of growth and learning and exploration when you're on a career gap. You are sitting with yourself all day, you are learning a lot. But we get told, we've been told it's not a good thing, and we've been told it's easier to go from job to job instead of having a gap. And we take that all on and we end up in this real scarcity fear mindset. And we change and adapt and say what we think people want to hear, instead of sitting back and going, if this job is right for me, I'm going to get it because I am unique. I am me. I am the only person that can do this job in the way I am going to do it. Yeah. It's not that someone else can't do the job. It's just you're you. You're the only person that can be you. And that's either going to fit or it's not going to fit. But we get too caught up in the it must fit because we've got bills to pay, right? And we get really uncomfortable in that situation. And and then if you're in a job that you hate, that you loathe, and that you're, you know, going to work crying every day or whatever it may be, it's not the fear of not being able to pay your bills. It's the fear of how long are you physically going to be able to continue doing that before something breaks.
And I think, and that's a really interesting point that you make, because in both of those positions, it got to a point where I felt like my manager was trying to humiliate me, or there were meetings where I'd come out crying because I could not deal with the pressure. And I'm normally a pretty level-headed individual. And it was actually one of my colleagues who turned around, he was seeing what was going on. He said, look, if you don't do something soon, you're not going to be able to continue at all. Like, this is going to break you. This is going to become a problem for you, because, you know, you cannot physically work any faster or any harder. You're exceeding the targets that you were given. And unfortunately, because I'd made a complaint, or because I had issue with what the workload was being given, it was almost felt like a reason was found to get rid of me, because I wasn't just conforming to the role. It was, we hired you for this purpose, we told you what this would include, you've just got to be able to get on with it. And you kind of then made feel guilty, because you're like, well, I should be able to do this. Everybody else in this role previously has been able to do this. And again, going back to the whole transparency and honesty thing, that I was actually the first person to go into the job that I got at the end of the year. I was the first person to have that type of role for a very long time. So I was told I'd sort of carve it out. So to then be told, well, you need to be able to do this because other people have been able to do this. Actually, you'd gone against what you'd offered me. You'd given me sort of 3 weeks to get to grips with the system and learn everything that we do. And then it was, 2 months of, well, just get on with it, and adding more and more that actually when I was hired, that wasn't discussed at all. So it's just that sort of moving the goalpost, because if an employer, and the unfortunate situation, we've seen it many, many times, where if an employer thinks that they've got a hardworking individual, they'll keep moving that goalpost, because that person, they can tell, is vulnerable or insecure enough where they are going to kill themselves just trying to make you happy, to try and meet or exceed those goals. And it was only when I started to sort of step back and actually losing my second position, for, again, very strange reasons, that I actually sort of sat back and think, do you know what, we're totally manipulated in this sort of cycle of fear, especially if you're looking for jobs during COVID, where businesses aren't doing very well, and everyone's out of work. So you feel like you've got so much more competition for that one role. And in actual fact, it could have still worked to your advantage, but they're just moving the goalpost all the time. And I think we've talked about it, and I've talked with a few people about the transparency in the recruitment process, whereby, actually it's more important that as a candidate, you have those list of questions, because you have every right to ask that person where you stand, and almost you kind of get to this really jaded situation where you want everything in writing, because the more you get stung and the more people overextend that job role, the more you're like, can we just stick to what we actually agreed? Because it changes all the time, and it's been such a transformative period for so many businesses, that I can understand why. But equally, we're still the same people we were pre-COVID. We still got the same limitations, the same work-life balance requirements, if not worse, because if you've got kids at home. And I think the whole thing is just completely out of control. We've lost the boundaries that were safe to work towards. It's a difficult time.
Yeah, 100%. And I resonate with what you're saying so much. And two kind of stories are added in there. That thing of, if you're a good, diligent worker and you always get your work done, you just get given more. You're rewarded with more work. That is not a reward. For realizing I'm good at my job, but giving me more is not a reward. Like, you still only have your employees work 7 hours a day outside the lunch break kind of thing. Like, there is only so much you can do in that space. And absolutely. I was talking with one of my girlfriends who still works in corporate, and she was telling me a story of, there's a newer person, a junior person in their team, come in as admin, and it's been picked up by senior people that this girl is still on working at 10 o'clock at night. And that's the boundary blurring, right? So we're working from home. So there is a blur of boundaries in terms of, if you work from home, you have to, I've found, because I work from home, you have to be really set on when you're willing to work and when you're not willing to work, right?
Yeah.
And it got raised. So this got raised. It got picked up by senior staff members who were like, this is not great. She's been with us for a little while and she's working at 10 o'clock at night. That is not, she's also working all day. It's not like she's having a jolly in the middle of the day. Like, she is working all day, right? And then the GM turned around and said, at least she's due diligent and she's getting her work done. And I was like, sat here as an ex-HR person who's moved into the space.
You can't help it.
And well-being, looking after yourself. And I'm like, that is the worst response a manager should be having. A manager should be like, oh, what are we doing wrong? What is the problem here? Because if she can't get the work done within this set time, what's the cause of that? And the cause of that should not, the answer should not be, and I think the answer often comes to, well, the individual just can't do the job. But do we track it back to, actually, we physically give people more work than is possible to get done? Like, are we doing time job measurement studies? Like, are we doing that? Are we going, you know what, yes, okay, it's an admin role and it's generally relatively simple, but all of that stuff takes time. It's not that it's necessarily overly complicated. There's a time element to it, right? But yet leaders are like, oh, it's great, they're doing extra work, it's amazing. No, we're people, we break.
And I think it's a really interesting point that you make, that actually it's due diligence, or this person's really conscientious, isn't that an amazing work ethic, and almost rewarding that almost state of self-abuse that, you know, this person is. And then what do you have other people in the workforce who then start following suit because that's the standard? Or, you know, if you're saying this lady was quite new in the organization, I've been there, and you're trying so hard to prove the reason why this person has hired you, you feel like you have to earn your place there to meet up with everybody who was already working there, who had all the time in the world pre-COVID to learn their role. So, you know, they weren't thrust in this working from home situation and all the changes in culture that happened with it. And you're trying so hard to prove yourself that you make it completely unrealistic. And I've seen so many posts from people in HR and various things, you know, saying, what do you think about working from home when you're unwell? And a lot of people think, well, I'm at home and I'm more comfortable, so I'll just get on with it because I'm not going to spread it to anyone else, so it doesn't matter. And you're thinking, actually, no, if you're sick and you're too sick to work, then that's the same whether you're at home or in the office. And somehow that sort of line of standard just keeps moving, and people are so afraid to ask what is rightfully theirs, you know, the chance to heal over an illness or something like that. It is crazy.
It's an interesting one, because I was having that conversation about sickness with my husband. He's been at home, but they're starting to go back into the office. Loads of people went in last week and they were all sick, so like basically the whole team got sick, right? Like
the minute they came in.
Bits of COVID, go to work when you've got the sniffles. It is just the sniffles, but like what? And I thought like it'd be really interesting to see the stats on, now that there is more work from home, and that's kind of in every country, like that is a universal thing now, like we are working from home. Has the amount of sick days reduced? And then yes, I get it, if you're sick, you're sick, but I also get it from a personal level of when I was in corporate in commuting, I would commute on a train for over an hour and 20 each way.
Wow.
So if I felt ill, that thought of standing at a train station at 6 a.m. in the morning, but
when it's raining and
lay in and didn't necessarily have to do that, I may have felt more comfortable working from home, because you don't have all of that. So I think if you're genuinely sick either way, like you are sick, but if you feel you can work from home because you then don't have that commute, then do it. But if you're sick, still take the time. Don't feel like you have to be this martyr of, but I get to be at home. No, like if you were sick, actually resting is a really good thing, because that is what your body needs, and you're going to get over it so much quicker. So it's an interesting one, isn't it? Of that, if you work from home, can you take a sick day? Well, yes, because if you're sick, you're sick. But at the same time, I do understand if you're someone who has a commute or a longish commute, then maybe there is a difference between being too ill to go to the office and actually being too ill to work. I'm not.
No, absolutely.
It's an interesting one.
And I think also moving on the same sort of lines where COVID has affected things, you wrote a few interesting articles recently on LinkedIn about the changes to careers and the kind of excuses that people come up with. And anyone who was working in hospitality had, if they wanted to get paid, had to move into other industries. And people, when I was going through my recruitment process, were asking, well, why do you want to work in sales? People fall into these positions, they don't ask to be in there. And I said, well, if you look at most people's work history, especially over COVID, you've got people who came from a restaurant and have moved into just about any job that they could find. You know, I'm fairly confident in most industry. I've been in recruitment, I've been in HR, I've worked in a call center, I've worked in complaints, I've worked in banking, I've worked in leisure, I've done a bit of childcare, I've done all sorts of things. And I think we're constantly, you know, as an academic nation or as a schooling system, it's always pick your one path, pick your subjects, go to uni, that's you for the rest of your life. And you spoke quite a lot about that fear and the excuses that people put up when they're talking about these career changes, and actually sometimes there's nothing wrong with complete, and again, it's that whole CV appearance situation where you're like, oh, you worked in HR, why aren't you going back to HR? And it's like, because I have the right to do something different. And if it's not working for you, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, coming back from 3 maternity leaves, I've ended up changing roles because the one wasn't there, or I felt like trying something different, because especially if you're not totally in love with what you're doing, or the opportunity just isn't there, you know, your requirements of flexibility don't fit the sector that you're going into, you have to be able to adapt. And actually there's something quite liberating in trying your hand and turning your hand at different things and seeing which fits you best, because at different parts of your life you will develop different skills, and experiences will shape and change you. And the role that you were in 3 years ago that's making you miserable and you don't want to get in the car to go on your commute and you sit outside crying before you go in the office because you're fed up, you don't have to live like that. You can just walk away from it. And there's so much fear either to change career path, or even just to say to your employer, I'm not happy and I don't like what I'm doing. There are things in my everyday role that I don't like, that are making me as a person, me with my mental health, I am feeling unwell. There is something not right here. And I think we've all been in roles where we've sat here and I was like, and I've said it countless times, I said, I can't put my finger on it, but something is making me unhappy. Something makes me feel lost. Something makes me feel unfulfilled. And it's having that bravery. And sometimes, you know, with people like yourself, where you need somebody to stand behind you and say, no, it's okay. Go and be happy. Have a little try. And if it doesn't work, no big deal. But you tried it, because we're so afraid.
We're
so afraid of
it's
finding what we want.
It's so weird. I think I did a video on it actually.
Yeah.
The other day on LinkedIn, and this is my bag. I talk about it a lot, but I did a video talking around kind of the ideal career path for you. And so, like, I question whether or not there is an ideal career path, because we evolve and change as humans. So is one the only thing? Who knows? Like, I don't know. I don't think so, because I'm not the same person I was when I was 21 and left uni, right? Like, I have learned so much, I've been exposed to so much. But also it's that thing of, when we ask children, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? And I'm sure the answer will be slightly different now with the younger generation to what it was when we were there. But it's doctor, lawyer, astronaut, you know, firefighter, policeman, right? Like, it's a real traditional stuff.
Because you know what it's going to be now, though, don't you?
Exists. Like,
you know what it's going to be now.
It's going to be YouTube producer, influencer. Like, I know it's going to have changed, but we don't know what we don't know, right? And the educational system, and it is what it is. It does its job to a point, but it sets us up to be academic. It sets us up to go into the traditional type of careers. And I know it's changing, but that's really what it does, right? It gives us the opportunity to go off to university and learn how to be a vet or a lawyer or whatever the hell it is we've decided to do. And that's cool if you want to do that.
Yeah.
But until you start getting into the workplace, until you start networking with people and talking to people, you don't actually know what jobs exist. And the sky is honestly the limit. Like, if you can dream a role, it exists somewhere, or you can create it. And that's like, linking back around to LinkedIn, that's why I love LinkedIn, because you get to talk to all of these people, and I meet people and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know that was a role. Like, I stumbled across someone the other day and all they do is make LinkedIn banners.
Amazing.
Like, graphic design. Yes, I know that exists.
Yeah.
But all this person does, their whole business is about making LinkedIn banners. They don't do any other form of graphic design. And I'm just like,
amazing.
Wow. And you like that? You find that really fun? That's fantastic. But we're not told this stuff as we're growing up. We're not told this stuff at uni or in our early 20s. Like, it's our own exploration of the world and talking to people. But we get pigeonholed as well, right? In terms of who you talk to, who you socialize with, unless you constantly put yourself out there and constantly open yourself up to new connections. You talk to the people you went to school with, you maintain those friendships, generally speaking, unless you do what I do and move to the other side of the world, you maintain that bubble, right? And then they go to work and you go to work, and then you socialize with the people you're working with. So they're not doing anything different to what you can see. So how do you get out of that cycle and start going, there's a big world out there of all of these jobs, and what some of it's going to work for me, one of it won't. And like it's really interesting that you kind of touched on being unhappy and not fulfilled and not knowing why, and having the confidence to have that conversation. And it might not be that you hate your job. It might not be that you hate the organization you work for. It might just be one tiny change that needs to happen. And all of a sudden you're going to be happy. Yeah. But if you don't know how to have that conversation, and you don't know how to figure out what that tiny thing is, and it may be that you'd much rather start work at 8:30 than 8. You know, that's pretty minute, but that could revolutionize someone's morning, right? They get to have breakfast with their kids and they're not stressed. That could change the whole thing. Or it might be a task. It might be, you really hate that spreadsheet. Okay, can someone else do that? Or is there another way of doing it? And it's being brave to have those conversations. And I don't think there's many people in a corporate workplace that are willing to kind of like put their head above the parrot pit and go, hey, can we have a chat about how you've designed my role? Because it really doesn't work for me. Like, it's scary doing that, really scary.
Yeah, and I think another post that you put out, I think it was last week or earlier on in this week, wherever we are in the week, because actually LinkedIn's really a 7-day situation now. It really is. What really does 5 days mean? But you talked, I spent a long time reading the article that you put about self-sabotage, because I do this personally, like moving aside from career, I do this personally. You're always teetering on that side of humility where you think, somebody says something amazing about you and you're like, oh, really, I'm X, Y, and Z. Let me level the playing field for you. Let me give you a more honest opinion of myself. And humility sits very closely on that fine line to self-sabotage. And the same thing applies when you take that into work. You know, somebody could be telling you you're right for this role, or you could be doing this, or have you considered this career path, or do you want to move to China and hug pandas? Is that what you fancy doing? And we almost give people reasons as to why not. We stop, you know, we've all had these interesting prospects and put in front of us. I mean, I'd love the panda one. But when you look at it, like, we're actually all at some point, given we've had a thought, or we think, do you know what, there's a gap here, there's a niche there's something I could really fill if I had the bravery, and we sit there and we think about it more and more, and we talk ourselves out of it, and we, you know, there's nothing wrong with trying it for 6 months, and if it doesn't work, then that's okay. Take a calculated risk and give it your all, and hope that it succeeds. But it's, you know, moving past those regrets and the what ifs, and actually giving it a try. And like you said, LinkedIn's one of those amazing platforms where you will meet all sorts of people, but actually intrinsically we're all very much the same, unless you are very fortunate to meet somebody who loves their job. Because we're all directed, it feels like, I'm going to go on a tangent, but you know, the Bee movie, have you seen the Bee movie? Yeah, where they're very much from day one, they're like, you're either going to be this or this, and you were born to do this, so that's your only opportunity. And if you didn't come from this particular background, there's no way you're going to do the pollen jockey job or whatever else like that, and you're just going to work in that job until you die. And actually, that film really resonated with me for many reasons. And my kids, I'm like sat there going, yes, I agree with you. Yes, Barry. And my kids were going like, Mum, I don't get it. Like, what's the problem? But actually, when you're kind of just going through the motions, and I've had messages from people saying I am miserable in my job, and the only one that's stopping them from getting out is them.
Yeah.
The only person who is sabotaging their career prospects or snatching away their opportunity to be happy is them. And all it takes, and this is what I'm saying now to everybody, all it takes is about half an hour on LinkedIn to start getting your profile up and running. You know, get rid of the grey LinkedIn banner, put a moderately decent picture of yourself up, just start with a really terrible one if that's what it means, but start investing in your page. And it was when I'd lost my second job, it was when I was giving back the equipment. I sat in that car park and you know what, I built up a massive network because I was told to, and because it looked good for a salesperson. And I was like, do you know what, I'm going to sit in this car park and I'm going to put my banner up straight away that I'm open to work. And I said, I wasn't in a place where I could take rejection after rejection from job sites like Indeed, where you don't hear back from someone for 2 weeks, and between the first job I lost and the second job I lost, it was only a week between losing one and being offered the other. And I said, you know what, if we can have that breathing space and I can wait for the right thing to come up, then let's give ourselves that the ability to just come and see what happens in the network. People are doing this on LinkedIn all the time. By no means what I did was completely revolutionary, but let me test and see whether or not it works. It obviously does. And I sat there in the car park and I did it straight away. I literally got out of the office, got in my car, and I was like, right, I'm updating my LinkedIn right now. And I just thought, you know what, let's find when you're working, you don't get the opportunity to network in the same way. You'll meet these interesting connections, and you're like, oh, I'm really sorry, I'm in a 9 till 5. Have you got time in the evening? Can we do it after the kids are asleep? And actually, my mindset had to change when actually normally when you're like, as soon as you're out of a job, you furiously apply for all of these job boards and stuff like that, and you feel this massive dread on your shoulders, like you said, about having gaps in employment and things like that. And actually, I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it this way, and I'll apply for a couple if they feel right. But the way I was using LinkedIn and the way that I'd started to see it work with the conversation I'd already generated was one network gets you closer to another network, which gets you closer to somebody who's got a job opening. And I knew getting into sales or anything of this nature where I didn't have experience, the only thing that was going to get me there was my personality. That's all I had. You look at my CV, I don't have sales experience, and every role asks you to have sales experience. You always have to have experience in an industry that you're breaking into, which is crazy, because clearly at an entry level position you don't have that experience.
No.
And I just knew that, and certainly LinkedIn more than anywhere else was starting to become, this is about you as a person, getting yourself out there. Over the pandemic, people's personal posts were what were really getting them traction, and generating leads into their business was getting to know the person behind the account. So I spent some time with a few different people on LinkedIn, optimizing it and just meeting people and networking, kind of like we used to in the real world before COVID. But these are people that I wasn't going to get a chance to meet. We were just doing everything over Zoom. And it is incredible to see the generosity and support of certain people, where they're just, as soon as you put that open to work thing out there, you get people going, are you okay? Can I give you a hand with anything? Let's talk about your LinkedIn, or have you considered doing video? And I mean, I've made some shocking attempts at video. I hate having it. I hate doing the whole selfie thing. And I joined TikTok because I thought that was probably the better way of doing it, because you can edit it or filter it heavily or do music over it, because I hate hearing my own voice for that length of time. Because let's face it, you do 30,000 recordings just to get one good
one. Yeah, just to get one. Like you put into one video. Wow.
And by the end of it, you're no longer, oh, hi, it's me. And I'm coming from, you're like, hi, it's me. And this is what I've got to say. And I've got to say it in 30 seconds. And I have to do it perfectly. And my mouth has to be clear. And then I can put it out into the network. You're like, do you know what now? It's lost all the personality that I was trying to hope to achieve. And so I did ones with music and beard filters and all sorts of things. So I was like, do you know what? At this point, if I'm not attracting people because I'm talking about sector specific content, I might as well, just because people have said to me afterwards, like, you're actually crazy. And I was like, yeah, but you stopped and you looked, because you saw me just losing it. As the weeks went on, you were like, guys, we need to give her attention, otherwise she might just do something mad. She's standing there rocking with jazz hands and stuff. Give her a chance. But no, it has been an amazing process. It has been really enlightening, and actually, because I'm able to give that kind of experience, a lot of people are saying, you know, I've never given LinkedIn a chance, but possibly I will now, because it's not the stuffy beige business to business men in suits network that it actually used to be. It's incredible.
It's evolved so much, and it's really interesting. Someone put a post up on LinkedIn probably overnight that I commented on this morning, and it was talking about whether or not you have the fear of putting content up and why you have the fear of putting content up. And there was a little poll and stuff, and I just put on a comment because like none of the poll answers matched me. I put content up, so it wasn't that I don't do it and there was no reason behind why I didn't do it. Like I just do it. But I just put a comment on there saying the LinkedIn community is incredible. Share your stories, ask your questions, share your problems. Someone will read it and someone will reach out and help you. And it may not be someone you have ever met before. Yeah. But they will. Like, it's a genuine, and I'm not saying it's all perfect. Like, I've had horrible comments put on some of the stuff I've put out there. And I'm like, okay. And, you know, there is that trolling. It's social media. Like, that is still there. But generally speaking, if you put out something that resonates with people, you've got a problem, it doesn't even have to be looking for work. It could be you're doing something at work and you don't know how to get your Google sheet to do something you need it to do. Like, just put the question out there. You're going to have 100 answers because the community cares. Like, it's very much, although it is this social selling platform, it's selling yourself. I use it to sell my business and sell my services as a life coach, and there are people on there that use it like that. But it's also this outcry of people just genuinely wanting to help each other. Yeah, that's what I found amazing. Yeah. And that's what you found, isn't it, through it? That absolutely. I mean, you do get some marriage proposals and you definitely get some lurkers who are able to extract so much detail from comments you put elsewhere. There were people collecting details from things I was putting on other people's posts and creating this picture of me, and I've had all sorts. It's been crazy. I think LinkedIn is the new Tinder, if you don't get out anymore. And you don't use Tinder. Like, you're on one, you might as well use it for both, you know. You like, might as well, right? Might as well. It's an innovation. But it is incredible, the amount of support, the fact that once you start, you know, conversing with people and finding out more about them, and actually when I started using it, I was being told sort of what I now love to hear, this term of pitch slapping, where you just go straight in pitch with everybody who replied to a DM. And actually every time I did that, I got, "Are you married?" as the questioner's response. Is that because people who do that continuously must be single, or I don't know what the connotation of that question was and where it came up. But when you start watching stuff about social selling, and it's an amazing resource, because obviously for most people to give of their business or to help you understand what they do, there's a vast amount of knowledge on there that's being shared for free, you know, people's opinions, getting conversations started. And I've got a couple of people, yourself included, where if I post something, there's almost immediate support unless you're asleep. Because, sometimes, right? I do apologize. I mean, like, they're very short hours, like the next minute you're awake again, it's fine. But I found it amazing how people were just like, let's just jump on a Zoom. I'm not in your sector of interest, I'm not in the role that you're looking at, but let's have a conversation. And it was nerve-wracking to start off with, and actually the first person I did it with is a lovely guy who is currently looking for work himself, and he said, actually, from the experience that you've had, I'm really surprised that you just agreed to jump on a Zoom with me. And I said, well, you've got to start somewhere, and I got a good enough vibe from you that I could trust you, and this is totally out of my comfort zone, but you have to start somewhere. And this particular gentleman, you know, if he puts up a post, I'll always comment on his, and it's that mutual sharing. And even if you're not in the same sector, you're all really just there to support each other, whether you're looking for work or looking for new business, or, you know, that you appreciate a comment or engagement on your post, so you're more likely and more willing to do it for others. And it's the best way of getting yourself out there, especially as LinkedIn keeps stopping you sending invitations as well. You're right. Please follow me back. Can't stand people anymore. And actually, it worked out that you get, for everyone who accepts, you get one more invitation you can send out, which is brilliant. Because you don't have to wait for it to be refreshed, but you just need people to check their LinkedIn as crazily and as habitually as you do. Yeah, you need people to be on it. You need people to be accepting those connection requests. You have 15 minutes before I need to send a new invitation out. It becomes sort of compulsive. Like, wait up. Else I want to talk to you. But it was it was what I thought was then incredible is that people, I guess maybe I had more time, I'm not sure what it is, but a couple of people
were really reading in between the lines of my post and saying, what I love about you is that you're pushing past your comfort zone, and I can see you're trying really hard to be vulnerable. I can actually see that this doesn't come easy for you. I'm sort of a contradiction in personality, where I'm quite confident and outgoing, but actually incredibly insecure. And I was joking with girls in the office today, because I was like, I've been here a week and I still don't know how to open the fridge, and nobody's done it. So every time somebody goes in the kitchen, I watch to see if how they open it, because I'm tugging at the thing and it's not opening. I was like, there's got to be a knack with it, and I'm just stupid. Everyone just goes in there and totally opens it. So I'm like, they've loosened it for me, I'll go in, can't pull it open. So my lunch is now sitting in the drinks fridge because I can't open the one for food. Like,
did you not work out the coffee machine? Did someone show you the coffee machine?
No, because I asked her to, and she said, does anyone want a coffee? And I was like, how fortuitous that you have asked, I would love a beverage. And I thought, yes, she's going to finally, I'm going to watch her do it. She used the kettle, and I was devastated. I was like, this was my moment. I watched him fill it up with coffee pods, and I still am no closer to getting that Starbucks. I know it's there for me. But it's like, on the first day, I was trying really hard to catch this girl's eyes, because they did a tour of the office in, like, they barrage you with people's names and stuff like that. But really, all you're thinking of, the thing that I need to know is, where's the toilet, where's the kitchen, not who these people are. I'll get there. And I could see people going off into this room, but there wasn't no marking on the door. And I was trying so hard to catch this lady's face. I was like, can you just look at me so I can ask you if that is in fact a toilet or another corridor? What the hell? Where is everyone going? Like, and it took like a full half hour. You have that moment of desperation. You're like, I really should just ask the person sat next to me, but I don't want to appear that idiot. So you have that 20 seconds of weakness, and you're like, if I took my lunch break, I could just go out the bushes. And I'm like, no, just ask where the toilet is. Like, and I told my colleague this today, and she was like, you're something special. Like, I was like, of course they've got toilets here, of course they've got the correct facilities, just man up and ask the question.
And it goes too long eventually, doesn't it? Like, it will get like 6 months in and you still may not have figured out the coffee machine. But at that point you can't ask. Like, no, you can no longer ask the question.
I'm getting to this zone already where I've now told about 6 people that I still can't open this fridge. No one has said, Tessa, just come with me in the office, let me show you how to open this fridge. They're all just doing it behind my back, because I have literally my back to the fridge area. So I have to wait to hear for footsteps. They're just doing it with ease. I have tugged at this thing. I have moved it from out under the counter and everything. Can't get the damn thing open. And I thought, it's identical to the one next to it in where the label is and everything. So I was like, if the one on the left opens the left-hand side, it must be the same. No, it isn't. I watched the girl do it today. It's the opposite, but the sticker's on the same side as the other one. And I was just like, you know what? I'm fine with the drinks fridge. We're good. Like, I'm not bringing in food that's to go in the fridge if I can help it. Like, sandwiches for me. Like, but I know I'm so special, but it is one of those things where you're just like, you're so afraid of acting anything less than this like hardcore professional who's ready for business, and totally in the mode for work, that actually you forget very basic things like, where's the toilet? Or because that's not a professional question to ask on your first day. You're hoping that it's really obvious, or that you can sort of sneak away. But the way that our office works is like a team on one end of the building and a team on the other. There is no way that you can try and sneak around the business without anyone seeing you. And I thought, I'm going to feel really stupid if that's a corridor for something else and I'm not supposed to go down there. I was like, I didn't see the toilet.
You just hope it's the thing people point out to you, right? You really do. Like, but I do think most people forget on the induction tour of where are the bathrooms. Yeah,
they take those kind of things for granted, which is ironic, because if you're a nervous person, it's your first day in the office, the first thing that you're going to do is need the toilet. So I feel like we massively derailed the conversation, but yeah, like that was the conversation that I had with my colleagues today. And I just like, even little things like, guys, is there a special trick with the phone? And they were like, no, you just pick it up and dial. I was like, no, because like some places you have to put a 9 in front of it, whatever, before you dial out.
That stuff, yeah.
So they sort of looked at me like, it's just a phone, just dial like you normally would on your mobile. And I was like, do you know what? Yeah, I should have just assumed that it worked like a normal phone, but I'm so skeptical. I was like, just going to ask first because I don't want to do it wrong and be like, the phone's broken. Be like, no, you didn't dial properly. So I was just like, instinctively, I almost put the 9 first. And I was like, do you know what? It's not worth it. Let's just ask. But they did all look at me like I was some sort of Martian, like, what do you mean put a 9 in front of the phone number? What's wrong with you? Like,
because
yeah,
they don't
sorry.
have to do it, right? And they probably haven't for a really long time. But when you come from another organisation where you have 9 and 0 for an outside line, and then all of a sudden you don't have to do that, it's like, what?
But it's really funny, and it's, you know, again, it's that whole fear of not appearing to be what your employer is looking for, and being so worried about this perception and whether or not you're up to the task. I mean, my job currently doesn't require me any skills in locating the facilities. I'm not a facilities manager, so it doesn't matter if I don't know where stuff is. Like, it doesn't matter. But you're like, so much like, yes, I'm 29 years old and I should be able to locate a bathroom on my own and open a fridge. And like, it's just little things like that you sort of take for granted. But yeah, and that's feeling that out of place, and feeling, you know, I've worked in positions before where for the first 3 months no one spoke to me, and I tried my darndest to get in with somebody. You know, like, you pick off each team member, and when you're alone you're like, so how long have you been with the business? What did you do before? And you try and do the whole like backstory thing. They were like, I've always been here. You're like, oh, okay. That's really charming. But again, like, and it's that you're trying so hard to fit into what you think you're supposed to, and like I said, I come over quite confident, quite bubbly, but in those moments I'm like, I'm not going to talk when everyone's around. Like, even I don't know how much I should say because I sound like an idiot when I say it out loud, but we don't have an Echo or an Alexa or anything else like that, and I'm always like, again, been there a week, it was only today everyone went in a board meeting in a separate room, and I was like, Alexa, can you play a song, please? Because it was so deadly quiet. And I was like, clearly don't know how to use one. We don't have one because we've got small children, so they would just harass this thing until it just ignored us anyway. But I stood there, and then it, like, after one song it was finished, I was like, oh, I've got to find an excuse to go in the kitchen again to go and like put the damn music on. You're like, I'm just going to look like I'm just walking backwards and forwards, like I really have nothing to do, because they can only see my head above the monitor. And I just walk. And then like I'd obviously missed a step, so I was going, Alexa, volume 5, and she didn't listen, and I was just like, oh, I'm just gonna have to walk back again because I didn't want to do it loud enough that everyone can hear, so it's still as quiet as it was before, but I'm not shouting it twice. I'm just gonna go sit down and listen to my whispering music in the background. Oh
Dear.
Are you special? Goodness, my kids are going to be like, Mum, you come, like, you're so together, you tell us all the time what to do. I was like, I'm just as much of an idiot as like your 19-year-old like uncle. Like,
You're
it's
not,
one of these things
like,
that just
all of this stuff,
so
and
special.
I think this is what, when I obviously stalked you on LinkedIn and got your profile, this is what comes through, right? Like, you are not, like, you go through everything everyone else goes through, but yet, however much you say you're self-conscious, you find the courage to just put it out there and be like, hey, listen to me. And everyone else is feeling the same. Everyone else is going through that, you know, when they start a new job, oh, where is the bathroom? How do you use the coffee machine? Like, all that, how do you pick up the phone? Like, all of that becomes like, it's a normal process. And like, it's a learning thing, right? Like, you don't just walk into a brand new office and suddenly like know where everything is. Like, some people may behave as though they're that confident and so they know where everything is. The reality is they don't. And you just have this amazing ability, and what I've seen through LinkedIn, to just come out and say it, and like literally your energy and your personality like jump out of your PC screen at you, and you're like, oh yeah, perfect.
I think it's something that I've always tried to live by, where, you know, it's about being honest and transparent, and sometimes people are completely taken aback by it, and they're kind of like, I can't believe you just told me that. And I said, actually, it's actually a lot easier to just be upfront and stuff and admit mistakes or admit what's going on, and to just to say it, than to, what did I tell this person this? I can't remember what I told them. Like, how much should I say? What? And like, even, you know, your question to start about were you made redundant? No, I was fired. No, out front, you know, I was fired. It was job fit on both sides, and I think we're so worried about reputational damage and what we should and shouldn't say, especially in Britain, you know, where we're very reserved. And one thing I find is that I will outwardly admit pretty much anything. I'll answer any question in any much detail. And you find that people end up doing the same. The more honest that you're willing to give of yourself, the more that you're willing to be vulnerable for them. And people started, like you said, noticing it in my posts as well. The more that people will come back to you and they'll start telling you their life story, or you actually, in some of the people that I've interacted with, you start seeing that personal thing coming through in theirs. Like some people think, oh, just sharing a video of me playing with my kids is a personal post. And it is. But to admit that you've had a really bad year, or that your mental health has suffered, or that is that beautiful expression, isn't there, where I look like everything's together, but inside my shoe, my sock has slipped off. It's that kind of mentality that you try, you know, the one. We've all worn wellies like that. We've all worn wellies where we could just, and nobody takes the wellie off to readjust the sock.
No, you just keep walking and it just gets more.
You just keep walking. and then you take your wellie off and your sock is either around your toes, completely all rolled up, or it's somewhere in the wellie. Like it's just not on your foot anymore. And it's that whole thing of we're uncomfortable, things aren't going right. Rather than stopping and readjusting and seeing whether or not we can make things better for ourselves, we just carry on. It's that keep calm, carry on. And I love that expression because it was so popular. But actually, sometimes you can't just keep calm and carry on. It's you're panicking inside or you're overwhelmed, and actually you can't carry on. It's more important. And maybe it's an age thing as I've got older, or maybe it's this particular journey that I've taken after the 2 jobs, and that enlightening moment of just trying to be a bit more relaxed and say, do you know what, the right position will come along. But it's more important that it is right, that you, like people said to me, you know, are you going to go for full-time or part-time? And I said, I'll ask for either. I'll tell them exactly what my personal life requires me to work. If I've got the kids and I want to do the school pickup, I'm going to tell them. I was like, you know, there are plenty of people on this network to talk to. If one of them doesn't want to offer me something more flexible, somebody else will. And it was funny because at the time I met the chap who's become my boss, I was starting to get a few more interviews coming in and people having chats. And actually, it's just the great thing about networking is before I even knew that that's the kind of the route, because he initially said, like, I just want to introduce you to my network. I'm not sure what we've got for you. And we had a bit of a backwards and forwards. And actually, when he sat in that Zoom, it was such a relaxed conversation because neither one of us had those expectations. It didn't feel like an interview. So you didn't feel uncomfortable. You were just yourself. And in actual fact, after that meeting, he was like, do you know what? I could really see you working here. I could see this being a fit. Let me have a talk. Let me decide where we might be able to fit you in. And hiring by personality and seeing the potential in somebody and where they fit into your organization is a hell of a lot more successful than technically on paper you should be able to do this job because you've been doing this job for 30 years. But actually, when you get into this environment, you might be a completely corporate individual. And these are people who sit, you know, half in their pajamas with a puppy running around the office. And do you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing that you there's only so much you could even get from an interview, that, you know, you jump through hoops, and you've got to find that culture fit, because you might be able to do data entry for the next 30, 40 years. But if you're not happy because of the people around you or the environment isn't right, you might be really good at your job, but you're miserable. And it's having that patience to kind of just, you know, just see what happens, see what lands. And actually, to some extent, I'm given the freedom to do it, but it's kind of when I found this job and when I accepted, because I just felt like it was going to be a good fit, and I really got on well with the guy who was going to be my boss. You kind of feel a bit sad that you're not going to do all that networking and stuff, because you kind of get a buzz for it. And I said to him, I don't really want to stop doing it, like, because once you push past that comfort zone, it's very easy to go completely back into being a hermit. And okay, right now I'm corporate, so I'm not going to focus on anything else, because those skills still need to be developed. And if you push past it, you don't want to lose them. And the skills that I've gained on LinkedIn, the experiences that I've had, and the people that I've met, you know, 6 months ago, 3 months ago, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I wouldn't have, you know, done a live yesterday with a couple of guys and stuff like that. There's so many opportunities that are totally random that come out of just being yourself and being comfortable enough just to share. And you learn such incredible things about people. You know, and I love this whole, oh, it's not Facebook, guys, stop being so personal in here, because you're like, actually, it's not about your CV or who have you done business with before. It's, do you click with this person? Have you got a genuine connection? And actually, it's become more relaxed, where you're waiting for the connection, the right connection, as opposed to, I need a job. And it's being a bit more relaxed in your approach.
Yeah, and I do agree, it's not Facebook, but it's not Facebook from my perspective, in the sense that the community is real on LinkedIn, and it is about that connection. It's not saying it's not about vanity metrics, right? Like, we all love it where we wake up in the morning, we're like, yes, 1,000 people have just watched my video. Like, that's the, we want that. Whatever.
Yeah.
We're hired wide,
Yeah.
we're human, we want that.
Yeah.
But it is a genuine connection, where maybe it's just how I've been using Facebook, and I use Facebook for my business, but I get far less genuine connection.
That's really interesting.
On Facebook. And it's also, I find that on Facebook, people are actually more hard sell, which you would think is LinkedIn, right? You would think on LinkedIn people are more hard sell.
That's so interesting.
I found people, you know, we just come and have chats like this and magic. And like, this isn't about me selling to you that, oh, I'm an amazing life coach, I can help you out. Like, I don't think in our journey at all that I've said to you, come and work with me. And I like being able to do that. I like being able to help and support and give free value. Without that kind of hard underline. And it's that trust that when you meet the right person, when you make the right connection, then that's going to be business for you, or that's going to be a job for you, or that's going to be a connection to someone else that you really need to meet. Where on Facebook, when you start using it from a business perspective, very quickly turns into, oh, you're not going to buy from me. I don't want to work with you. The amount of people who sell Bitcoin on Facebook is somewhat bizarre. And I'm just like, no, I don't want to invest. I don't. Why did you put my profile? I wanted to. And then they don't want to talk to you anymore. Oh, no, I'm not interested in Bitcoin.
But for me, it's Forex on LinkedIn. I'm always getting offered Forex. You can see them a mile away as well. It's more helpful when people are honest in their headlines. Actually, we're all talking about making them weird and wacky and all this sort of thing. Actually, I would just like you to tell me that you're somebody I'm going to ignore. But one thing I will say about LinkedIn, and I think probably because it's a business network, it works this way, but business is very much founded on your success and your failure and riding the highs and lows. And actually LinkedIn, because it is all professionals mostly on the network, actually that support is there because everyone's been through that peak and everyone's been through that trough, and you are now on this kind of journey together. You're both getting something out of it. You're engaging with each other, but also when you're having a rubbish day, like I've seen, like people over post something about how bad their day was, and within like an hour they've got, like you said, that massive list of comments going, oh, you're amazing, don't feel bad about this, you know, that tomorrow's another day, and all those what are normally sort of business cliches, but actually because of the way they're being applied to the situation and because of the genuineness, the people didn't have to reach out. You're not sat in that meeting with them, but they chose to, and they chose to say, you've got a great personality, somebody's going to be lucky to hire you, or what you're doing is incredible, I love that post because it's changed my perception of something, or it's really resonated with me. And it's seeing people actually really genuinely having a response, as opposed to doing it, like you said, the vanity metrics is lovely, it's a great ego boost, but actually the posts that you tend to care about are the ones that perform the worst. And if you get too hung up on it, then you'll make the same content every time hoping for the same reaction, and it does take a long time to get out of that habit, when actually you just post what you want to talk about, and if it gets traction it does, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But you needed to say that day, that's what you planned to say, or you were reactive to what was going on the social media platform, and you put in your thought, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there's this whole thing of, oh, don't sell to me, you know, let me just come to you and all this sort of thing. But that's a business network. You open a business magazine, you go on a business website, they're always trying to sell you something. That is and we're all trying to pretend that's not what we're here for, because
That's
everyone is aware, but we are.
Yeah.
Whether we're selling ourselves for a job or we're selling a service, you know, there will always be that uncomfortable point where you kind of have to ease people over it, because you are more careful, because there's this great awareness of pitch slapping and going in with these cold emails and stuff like that. So actually, in some ways, you know, kudos to people like yourself, where you are generating business this way, because I definitely can see it's getting a lot harder to kind of get over that hump of, okay, we've been friendly, but could we turn this into a business connection? And I'm absolutely in awe of people who've managed to grow their business that way, because that takes so much bravery and courage to be able to do, and you have to be so sneaky now about it, because everyone is reviewing your post going, where's the sell, where's the pitch? Like, they're expecting you to, because they know you've got a business. And it's almost that naivety of people saying, no, I've just come on here for 7.5 hours of chatting and commenting on other people's posts. Of course part of that,
right?
No, I mean, that's why I'm on it now, but it's that whole thing of it becomes quite an uncomfortable taste in people's mouth. But this is the platform, if more than others, where you're going to find your client base, because you will very quickly be able to see through people's posts or their career direction, or the fact that they've been open to work for a while, that they genuinely need some professional help by this point. And I mean, how do you do it? What are some of the things that you do to kind of get over that? Because you're not a pushy, hard selling type person. So
no,
I mean, it's a long play game for you, I presume.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So for me, and not just me, sales makes me feel really icky.
What do you do for me?
It really does make me feel icky. Like, I want to show up on LinkedIn and be myself and add genuine value. If only one person gets something out of a video I do, I've won. Like, if that one message helps one person, I am okay with that. And then this is probably a bit out there. I'm a life coach. I trust in the universe, right? So the right people are going to resonate with me. My profile is very clear what I do. I am a coach. I help under 35s figure out what the hell they want to do with their life, right? Yeah. That's what I do. That is my thing. LinkedIn is amazing because, generally speaking, people hate their job. So that's why it's the platform for me, because you can build up, you can find out what's going on for people. You can jump into people's mailboxes and say, hey, I noticed X, Y, and Z. Just want to give you a few tips. Do you mind? And you know, with one girl at the moment, she messaged me like out of the blue, and it was just incredible. And she was like, I've just decided to quit my job because it doesn't work for me. Like, and she's so self-aware that she was in this environment that was wrong for her. But now she's so terrified that she doesn't have a job. And it's not selling to her. I just sent her a whole bunch of questions to help her figure out, to give her the headspace to figure out, okay, well, what was it about that job? Because I think, like you said earlier on, so often we know something's wrong, but we actually don't know what that something is. And being able to figure out that something is really powerful. And if I can do that through very little time, I don't hours on LinkedIn a day. It may look like I do, but I really don't. I'm cool with that. And eventually I know karma, the universe, it will all come back around and people will start going, she actually knows what she's talking about. You know, that other month when I was really struggling, she's the person that, you know, gave me that little bit of motivation. You just kind of stick in people's minds in, I like to feel, in a more positive way. And like, I have no objections to people trying to sell me stuff on LinkedIn. Yes, do not sell me Bitcoin. If you are listening to this, no more Bitcoin. Do not want it. But I get it. Like, it's a selling platform. We're there for different reasons. Like, you went on it to get a job. So you went on it to sell yourself, to sell your talent, sell your personality. I go on there to sell my service. But at the same time, I'm selling myself. I'm selling my, the intention behind it, we're all there for a reason. Like, some people are on it because I don't know if this is taken off in the UK just because of what's going on, but there's a few challenges going on here around having 100 coffees with strangers. But there's a reason why you're doing that. Why are you having 100 coffee with strangers? Like, there's a purpose.
You're hoping one of them will buy you one.
It's intrinsically selfish, right? The reason we're on social media platforms is intrinsically selfish. Like, we all dress it up in a different way, and we all do it in a way that works for us. And that is cool, because that is how our personality comes out. But that is also how we're going to attract the right people. So if you are a hard seller and you're on LinkedIn and it is working for you, that's cool, because the right people are going to resonate with that. Where if you're like me and it's like, no, I just want to help you and be your friend. That's going to work for me too, because that's my personality. That's who I am. And it's like you went on TikTok to do your videos to show your personality, and that's what got you where you are now. That's what's landed you in your job, because you just went, this is me. Our uniqueness is powerful. And
I think there are so many parts of the platform, like we said, where it's really supportive. And I think and where I feel people like you will be very successful, if you're not already. I don't know. It's never really been a conversation that we've had, but it's that genuine desire to help people, to see that someone is struggling, have that intuition to read between the lines of their posts or their inactivity. We become so used to certain people commenting or whatever, that we notice when they're not there. And it's that genuine need to help people, that genuine desire to make someone's day better. And I have the life mantra. It's quoted from a film, and it's much longer, but essentially it's this, is that you leave people in a better state than you find them. And I've spent hours talking to people going through various difficulties and things like that, because at the end of the day, we're all just human beings, rather than what we're there to sell, who we're there to sell, what kind of service, whatever it is. We all have that need, and especially during lockdown, where people were inevitably going to be more lonely, more isolated, we needed that human connection. And it may be that somebody you sent a really nice email or a comment to 6 months ago will be in a much better headspace, and they won't have forgotten that kindness. It's the kindness that people don't forget. It's that personal and genuine interest. And actually, to some extent, the more that you show of that, and the more that you can show somebody you are invested in them as a person, not in their wallet potential, the more that they're going to remember that actually you had the opportunity to sell. It might even be, I know I've done it to people where I played into the hand of what would be the ideal sales conversation, and I put myself in that position to be like the perfect person to sell to. And some people either expect you that you're playing the game and you're not really interested in buying, or they will then get over that hump because you've given them that interest. But actually, even if you didn't take the opportunity to sell to them, they're kind of then like completely taken aback. I've had people where they've just like, okay, thanks for the conversation. And you're like, what, that's it? You didn't try and sell me anything? Like, what's going on? I have no idea what's just happened. And you're then curious as to why they've taken that time to talk to you. And then you're like, okay, so tell me what it is that you do. And it's always the personal interest and kindness that comes first.
That's it.
And I can imagine that's why you're able to offer the service that you do, because you've always, and I've seen it in the comments that you've made on my post and the type of content you're putting out there. It will be like this beautifully written post about things that people want to talk about or too afraid to say about self-esteem and self-sabotage and fear of leaving and career changes and the conversations people don't want to have. And it may just be a simple line at the bottom, like, just drop me a DM, or because your post has added so much value in what you've been able to put out there and the thought that you've put into it, that naturally, if it's resonated with somebody, they're going to get in touch. Why wouldn't they? And it's seeing your name and the way that you are commenting on other people's posts and the way that you're interacting, just the way that you're using LinkedIn is incredibly powerful, because it's just genuine. It's just, you've seen someone's video or post and you'll put a thoughtful comment in there. You're not, oh, that was great, but have you seen the content that I'm pushing out, or have you done this, which I'm starting to see more and more.
That happens.
It's just genuine. It's just genuine. And I think it's lovely. And sometimes I may miss a post, but I love your content when it comes out, because it just comes from a genuine place. And it's so entirely clear and transparent that you aren't there to sell. Of course, you want people to engage with you, but that's it. You want people to engage with you, and you are adding value wherever you can, which is incredible. And I think people very quickly lose sight of that nature of LinkedIn and why that is so important. So I love your content. I think it's great.
Thank you.
It comes from such a good place.
Being like all about me.
But again, it's these. Again, it's this kind of, and I get why people are so funny about, oh, do you mind if I just say something nice to you? Because compliments get taken the wrong way, and actually, it's about supporting each other, and it's about, I'm a great believer in, if somebody means something to you, or they've done something better for your day, or you can do something to make theirs better, take the opportunity. Because let's face it, we've all been out shopping, and we've seen a woman wearing an amazing dress, or she just looks killer in her outfit. And how many times have we gone, I really want to tell her that she looks really good, but that's so creepy to say, so I'm not going to say it. And actually, then you kick yourself for not taking the opportunity. When you know what, if you've got something genuinely positive to say about somebody, or praise where praise is due, just go and say it, because you don't know what their day's been like, what the struggle they've been through. You may just be the turning point in their day, and where you make these personal comments, where you've noticed something and you're praising people for being brave, or you're praising people for being honest and just putting the content out there, that makes people's day. It doesn't matter if you get anything out of it otherwise, and it's that ability to spread joy just by being a human and caring on a network where it's very easily removed. So
yeah, and I don't know, like I kind of approached it with the I'm one of those annoying people. So before we jumped on this podcast, we talked about going out for walks and stuff like that, and now there's a million people there. Not so much so much the hometown, Odessa and I grew up in the same place, so it's I always try and say good morning to people, or I'll smile at them while I'm on my walk, which some people are really like, oh, and they don't know what to do when you say good morning. They're not really sure. They're not sure if they can say good morning back, or if they nod, or some of them walk with their face down and don't even acknowledge it. And I'm like, the way I feel about it, especially now in this time we're currently in, me being able to say good morning to that one person, maybe the only other voice they have said to them that day that is directed at them, like if they are working from home and they live on their own, why would you not do it? And I guess I've kind of taken that approach with LinkedIn of, actually, people are there, they're being raw, they're being genuine, they're sharing their lives, they're asking for support. Why would you not say, hey, you're doing a good job, keep doing what you're doing? Because that might be the only kind interaction they have all day, and if that can just put a smile on someone's face, like that's it's perfect, right?
And I think again, because it's become such a long play game to get a sale or to get business moving, if you wanted to do it that way, you'd be doing a pay-per-click campaign, or you'd be doing that genuine ad sale type harassment, but LinkedIn doesn't allow you to do that. You have to make a connection. You get stopped from harassing people. You can only do so much to be that aggressive form of person, and actually finding more and more that those people aren't really using LinkedIn, or they're there so you've got a page of reference, but it is becoming more a personal, connective, supportive means of communicating with people wherever they are in the world. You're in Australia, I'm in the UK, I've had talks with people in America at strange times of the day and stuff like that, and it's just you used to think that connections could only be in your sector, or only in your country, or only in your county, or whatever, and it doesn't really matter, because wherever you are, you can add value to somebody else's journey, and they can add value to yours. And it's about having that ability to just be honest and transparent, and being totally upfront, because when you let people in, they let you into their lives, and we all feel much better at the end of it. Like you said, it's sometimes people haven't had anyone else to speak to, or they're having a rough time, and they don't feel like they can talk to their partner or somebody and it's that almost that safety in having a sort of stranger in your messages that you can just be totally yourself with and just say, do you know what, I'm not coping very well. And knowing, because we're all there 24/7, we hate to admit it, but we are all on LinkedIn 24/7. Once you're using it properly and you get addicted to it because you see its value. People who aren't on LinkedIn very often just don't see its value. They really don't. And they're not engaging properly, because when you start to engage and you get this toing and froing and stuff like that, you become addicted. So they're the people to spot. If they've not been active for 2 days, they're not using LinkedIn properly. But it's that you know that you've got this instant contact with somebody, that if you tried to phone them, they'd be in work, so they'd be too busy. But on a laptop or on a phone or whatever, it's just that little bit easy to reach people, and it's become incredibly powerful for that reason. So yeah, it is definitely my favorite social media platform. It's definitely up there now. Mostly because if you go on Facebook, you end up adopting a dog or something, don't you? That is actually genuinely the only reason I signed up to Facebook, and it was only in December that I signed up. I've held out for 28 years, and I was looking for a rescue dog, and that's why I joined Facebook.
What a lovely way to end the podcast. I think you summed up, like, obviously the rusty dog situation, but I just loved how you just spoke about LinkedIn and the power of that network. So it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. It was an amazing opportunity. I'm really grateful to be able to speak and to meet you, to have this conversation. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Finding Success on Your Own Terms. Don't miss out on new episodes released every Wednesday. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe to Finding Success on Your Own Terms on Apple Podcasts. To stay tuned for upcoming episodes, projects and news, follow Elizabeth Houghton on Instagram at Sudden Full Potential, and connect with her on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/ElizabethCoach. Discover your full potential and find out more about how you can change your life today at suddenfullpotential.com.